And the reason why is that in the 1930s, the United States government was not in debt. It was a creditor nation. We didn't have credit cards. People were not in debt the way that they are today. We had a society that was, in spite of the Dillingers that you see in the old movies, the crime rates were very low. People didn't do the things then that they do today. And so it was a totally different atmosphere. And in the early 1930s, when Depression started, they had the Reconstruction Finance Corporation, which is the same thing that we've got today with TARP. Same thing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, during that period of time, the government, and that's up till 1940, they increased the budget deficit by 45%, which is essentially what they're doing today. And at that time, that didn't bail them out because in 1940, unemployment was 16.4%. In 1939, it was 17.2%. So, yeah, it was down from 30%, but the point is they didn't solve the problem, so they had a war. But very interesting here, and you've got to note this, that is, from the top to the bottom, the stock market went down 89%. Basing it on today's figures of the high a year and a half ago of 14,162, that means that the stock market could go to 1,260, 1,260. So keep that in mind. The only thing I recommend in the stock market on the long side right now are a few oils, gold and silver shares, and a few water companies. Other than that, nothing. Everything else is short.
Okay, and when we come back from this break, C.C. Williams says that BDI, the Baltic Dry Index, is propaganda. We'll talk about that, and we'll take our phone calls after this 3-minute break. This is the Power Hour with Joyce and Dave.
And welcome back to the Monday edition of the Power Hour. Yes, we are sometimes looked upon as being, extreme on the right or extreme on the left. Remember, under the Clinton administration, we were labeled as right-wing extremists. Under the Bush administration, labeled as left-wing extremists. Folks, put any label that you want on it. The truth is a bitter pill to swallow, and sometimes they want to demonize and ridicule the messengers rather than deal with the message. But we didn't do it. It's not our fault. We are innocent men and women. This is Dave Lundquist.
And Joyce Riley, and I kind of disagree with that, Dave. I really disagree with that. Because we have participated by not participating. We haven't taken the stands in the past. We are not guiltless for this.
As a collective American people, absolutely right. But I think but you have to pick your battles, and you've battled for the veterans and for the veterans' rights for all these years. You can't fight all the battles. You've done everything you can. I've done, as much as I can, considering, we're all doing something. We're on the air every flaming day screaming from the rooftops. I'm talking about the American people out there, as I had mentioned in the last segment, who think that all this stuff is just too scary and I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to upset my joy. And unfortunately, those are the folks that are going to get hit by the freight train.
Let me move back to the issue of the Baltic Dry Index, because C.C. Williams says, although there are a lot of reasons to be concerned about the future, the BDI is not one of them. No one seems to be looking at the history of the BDI to realize there was a 90% spike in activity in recent years, while the BDI retraced to a normal level and actually has been on an upswing for the past 3 months. If anything, the BDI shows a direct correlation between the huge spikes in energies, grains, softs, and a big block trading traders cashing in big time. Be sure to look at the 10-year and full on the chart. It's not rocket science. For that matter, look at the 3-month. My gosh, the BDI is spiking. Thank you very much for that response. Let's go to Sherry in Kansas. Sherry, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead, please.
Hi.
Hi there.
Bob, if you're familiar with this, I'd like you to comment on it. A couple of things. There was a guy named Silvio Giselle that devised a money system where that I think would be good for people locally to implement. And Irving Fisher wrote a little book about it, and this was during the Depression, and he commented that the Depression would end in 3 days if they started doing this. And somebody's put this little booklet on the Internet, and it's called Stamp Script, and you can do a search and find it. and it's not very long. The other thing is, if you're familiar with Benjamin Graham's Storage and Stability, I'd like you to comment on that. And also, I picked up these books, Annals of Kansas History, 1886 to 1925, and one of the things in it, it talks about the products that were being grown and produced in Kansas. They had a summary of them at the end of every 2-year period, and it was quite interesting. And I think we're going to have to go back to producing some of those things.
Oh, I agree. Let me get the spelling on this. Stamps script, you're saying? S-T-A-M-P-S?
Stamp script, no T.
S-T-A-M-P-S, S-C-R-I-P?
Yes.
Okay. Bob, any response to what she had to say?
I've heard about it, don't know a lot about it. I know who Irving Fisher is. And Irving, incidentally, said everything was all right in 1929, and unfortunately he was wrong. As far as a stamped script, I don't know anything about that.
Okay, thank you very much. Good phone call, Sherry. We're going to be back with a bunch of calls. Tom, Daniel, Mike, and George, hang on. We'll be right back after this 1 minute, 10-second break with the International Forecaster editor. Go to theinternationalforecaster.com and get your complimentary copy. Back in 1 minute, 10 seconds.
Broadcasting from the most confused, dumbed down, manipulated, and brainwashed nation on the face of the planet with the news they hope you never hear. This is the Power Hour. Money and power. It's a lust for money and power that got us into this mess. I don't think so. Welcome back to the Monday edition of the Power Hour, hour number 3, now in session. This is Dave.
And Joyce, and I thank you for joining us in the Power Hour today. We're taking your phone calls because there are a lot of people who want to talk to our guest, Bob Chapman. Let's go to Tom in Missouri. Tom, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I've got 3 questions. One of them pertains maybe to Bob Chapman, but the first one, this Baltic Dry Index, if it dropped by 93%, why aren't the store shelves empty? And the second question is, the book Creature from Jekyll Island, and then like the movie Loose Change, why do they give them names that don't give a clue as to what they're about? I think the Creature from Jekyll Island would be like about the Loch Ness Monster, and Loose Change maybe coin collecting. How do they expect to sell them when they put names like that on them?
Tom, you're making way too much sense. Let me go to our guest, Bob Chapman. Bob, your response.
Well, on the creature, I guess we'll have to call Ed and find out.
Yeah,
of course,
Ed Griffin would be the one to ask.
The meeting was held at Jekyll Island, and it is misleading inasmuch as nobody knows that there was a meeting on Jekyll Island. Ed's telling you about it, so the caller is correct. The reason that we haven't gotten down to nothing on the shelves in relation to the spike up and spike down in the index is that people do have inventory, and I think that's why the index started to swing back up over the last few months, because things are getting going again, and buyers and sellers are finding ways to be able to get the letters of credit that are necessary to do business.
Well, I think that the Creature from Jekyll Island should be a.k.a. the Federal Reserve Fraud. That would be a good way to do it if they had a subtitle. Thank you very much, Tom, for the phone call. You're making way too much sense. Loose change. Absolutely. I agree with you on that. Daniel in New Jersey, you're on the air with Bob Chapman. Go ahead, please.
Hello, my friends.
Hi there.
If memory serves correctly, I think in the spring Bob Chapman was talking about that under the Patriot Act, that we have to be exempt from confiscation, a gold or silver coin must be what they call an antique numismatic coin, and to qualify under that definition, its purchase price must be at least 50% greater than the bullion price on the day of purchase. And by that definition, our coins like Swiss francs, British sovereigns, no longer exempt from confiscation. And if you can recall, I think you said the actual regulation number, third column, bottom of the page, and I'd love to have that reference so I can try to look that up and read the exact text.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's get Ted Anderson back on the line also, if we can, to respond to this question about being 50% greater than the bullion price. But let me go ahead, Bob. Any response?
Well, the general overview is this. The government being what it is today, and government ignoring our Constitution and using other means of controlling things and controlling the people, can do anything it wants at any time. They can confiscate anything they want: coins, guns, your home, your vehicles. That's how far this has gotten under the Patriot Acts. Mm-hmm. And how much more difficult it'll get remains to be seen. But the rules are there. They're open to interpretation, and Ted will tell you that. But the bottom line is they're going to do what they're going to do.